what's inside that church.
Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you enjoy this video, please give it a like and a share. So let's talk Overlord. And fear not, I'll talk non-spoilers first, then give fair warning and go into spoilers. So don't worry and don't say I didn't give you fair warning. So Overlord was the movie that was essentially shot in secret, thought to be a Cloverfield film, and then later confirmed not to be, and I can also throw in some confirmation there, it's definitely not a Cloverfield film. But that's not to say that it couldn't be worked into the Cloverfield universe, because it definitely could, but it's not at this point in time. The name Overlord seems to have actually been lost on a lot of people. Overlord is referencing the D-Day landings, Operation Overlord. It's the D-Day landings. So that's the time period that this film is set, and yes, we see black paratroopers. I know, shock horror, shock horror. This is something that comes up a lot on videos that I've done about this movie, but we're talking about a film that features some kind of supernatural threat, and you're all worried about the fact that we're seeing a black person in a pretend World War II scenario as a paratrooper. So suspension of disbelief is definitely needed for this film, but if you go into it with that, you will have a great time. I really loved this movie. I've seen a lot of common complaints about this film not embracing the horror element so much and being a bit lackluster as a result. For me, I felt it had enough horror. I felt it blended nicely with the war movie element that it was creating. It's also a very character-driven piece, following this band of paratroopers on a mission to a small French village where they need to take out a radio tower that the Nazis have set up at a church. Things go astray, their plane is shot down, and we wind up with only 4 from the entire platoon. So the war element to this film is very nicely done. We open on recordings that we would have heard by now 1,000 times over. A black and white intro, which then seamlessly blends into colour as the black and white overlay used on the planes and the boats approaching France is framed as being cloud and smoke, which is a really clever use of this, and it works really nicely. In terms of the actual World War II element, it works really well. We get a sense of the fear, the terror, and the frantic nature and brutality of the war. It is awful. And it also allows for some great framing of scenarios that would have no doubt happened, but given the horror element to the film, they take on a whole new feel. Take the dead paratroopers in the trees, shot down as they were descending, and no doubt something that actually occurred, but given the fog, the fact that the trailers have revealed there was some supernatural horror element at play, it takes on a whole new vibe. Plus, the lighting is near perfect. The acting in this is great. There are subtitles as some characters speak French and German, and I liked that. Each actor did a great job with what they were given, and the lead, Jovan Adipo, was really engaging and believable. Also, special mentions to Wyatt Russell and Pilu Özbek, who play the lead on the American mission and the Nazi captain respectively. Really, really great work. This movie balances everything really well in my eyes, and despite the arseholes in my theatre talking their way through the matinee showing, because hey, they're pricks, I was actively engaged, and the atmosphere generated from the slow but steady pace built on me nicely. It's not too long into the film and we see the horror element creeping in. Firstly, it's something benign, then a sharp jolt of a face, and then full-on supernatural, maybe what the hell is going on here kind of vibe. It's the best way to describe this movie is Wolfenstein. It's a great Wolfenstein adaptation, even though it isn't. The score works very well, really some superb work here. It helps to build some quite emotional moments, and it also accents the dramatic action scenes very nicely. I will say this though, I am getting sick of jump scares that are set up with music. I feel we need to go back to horror movies where the jump scares are just jump scares. We don't need a giant crash or a tambourine cymbal played to tell the audience that we should be afraid right now. Jump scares work much better without that auditory setup, in my view anyway. But the score for this works great, I digress. If you've seen the trailer to the film, you have seen an awful lot of it. sadly. But don't let that put you off, because the main story beats and certain bits and pieces are actually left out, which are a must-see on the big screen. I can see why people are saying that it didn't embrace the horror element, but I also feel it didn't need to. It has some horrifying moments, but it isn't a horror movie, it's a war movie with horror elements. At least that's how I see it anyway, and I feel it succeeded in that. For me, I'm very glad I saw this, despite the rotund duo that couldn't stop eating and talking behind me. Go and watch it, you won't be disappointed, it's worth the money and a film that I would happily see again in theatres. If you haven't seen it, here's your warning. We are going into spoilers now. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. Go get some coffee. I'll give you some moments. Here's some moments. Coffee break over? Good. Let's go. So the supernatural element and the Wolfenstein vibe. Yes, this is what J.J. Abrams and Julius Avery have done here, is basically take what we know of Hitler, i.e. his intention to create a 1,000-year Reich and his obsession with the occult, which legitimately was a thing, and give it some more life. Give it a grounding in reality. This isn't your typical J.J. Abrams movie where he opens the mystery box and then buggers off without explaining anything. We learn that the church is built on some kind of power, something in the ground, some tar or something, a substance. This is now being refined by the Nazis and tested on the villagers. This brings people back from the dead, gives them superhuman powers, turns them into monsters, and just living superhumans as well. Some were essentially zombies and some weren't, and the way that they did this was have some in various stages of the testing of this refinement of the serum, and it was really well done. They told us just enough, and then they got back on with the mission at hand. As mentioned before though, the serum and this element opens the movie up to using some absolutely fantastic special effects. It's really great to see practical effects making such a comeback. We see collarbones cracked out of people, a man with part of his radius and ulna jutting out of a stump, using it as a makeshift knife. It was genuinely some fine work and it looked awesome. We also got an absolutely incredible shot of a head. Just a head and a spine talking. Did I want to know more about all of this? Yeah, absolutely I did. Of course I did. But was I happy with what we got? Yes. I feel this movie is really good at blending the horror and the World War II stories together. I feel, again, this is just my opinion, but if it leaned too much more on either narrative, it would lose what it is. It's a dumb fun movie, genuinely uncomfortable moments, and it has a great cast, doing a great job, and I highly, highly recommend it. For me as well, when you go and see it, you'll see that there are the World War II elements were really quite respectfully done. There are certain scenes in the village which I felt were very appropriate and very tonally accurate to what World War II life potentially was like. And I feel that these elements thrown into a film like this, as a lot of people will look at this film and say it's disrespectful, we shouldn't make films like this and blah blah blah. I feel this was a really well done World War II movie, even though it's World War II with horror. I feel like they really genuinely did do it. And as well with the budget that they had and the location, because we are essentially all in one location. This could have been a field in anywhere for all we know that it was filmed in, because it was pretty much just one location, one tiny group of buildings, and then the church. What they did with just that as the locations and the settings that they had, very, very well done. You had claustrophobic moments, you had open moments, we had certain World War II elements where there was a trench in part of the village. It was so good that they managed to put all of this in such a small location with a relatively tiny budget. I hope this film does well. I really, really want this film to do well. So, guys, as always, I want to ask you, if you have seen it, what did you think? And if you haven't seen it, are you going to go and watch it? Let me know all of your thoughts down below in the comments section. If you are new here, like I said at the start, hit that subscribe button, stay up to date on all the world of pop culture and movie news, and also movie reviews, just like this one. Guys, just to let you know, if you don't already, please do follow me over on Twitter and Instagram at Mr. H Reviews. I've been Mr. H, been an absolute pleasure, and until next time, take care.